Hello everyone, welcome to Bruno's RPG Talk. Today I'm going to review Machinations of the Space Princess. This is an RPG I've been waiting for a while now. And just to get myself in the mood, I even went ahead to the Heavy Metal online store and bought myself the comic book, which the animated movie Heavy Metal 2000 was based on, and just to get myself in the mood for like trashy sci-fi, sci-fantasy stuff. So yeah, basically Machinations of the Space Princess is, as they say in the back, a sexy, sleazy swords and sci-fi. So this isn't for hard sci-fi, this isn't even for me. Well, you could kind of do it, but it's not really for Star Trek. No, this is more if you want to do stuff like I mentioned, like Heavy Metal magazine type of sci-fi. Star Wars, I mentioned it in there. One personal opinion, it really works for even like what you see in the comic book Saga, which is one of my favorite comics out there. And Saga has like all sorts of different aliens. It has like sci-fi and magic, and it has lots of like out there stuff, ideas bouncing off the walls, and it's kind of sleazy at moments. No, not just kind of. It's very sleazy at moments. So this, I've been waiting for it. I really wanted to run a game for this. Hell, I want to play in a game of this. So I'll just be reviewing it. I can tell you right away, this is going to be a positive review, but there's a few nitpicks I have. I'll mention them as I go. First of all, the name. A lot of people have been saying, well, people who don't know better have been saying, oh, the name is kind of a rip-off of Lamentations of the Flame Princess. For your information, this project started as an adventure for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Lamentations was doing this thing where they were trying to get funded a lot of adventures at the same time. It didn't work because people's money and attention were divided by too many adventures and projects. But the writer nevertheless felt like there was enough interest in it that maybe he could try again. And when he decided to try again, instead of doing just this adventure, he made it its own RPG, which I'm very happy about. Yeah, and they do address it, like in the introduction it says that this game was influenced by Lamentations. Although they don't have a lot of similarities. They're both D&D clones, so they're similar, but I mean, very little of Lamentations actually stayed in Machinations of the Space Princess, which is fine because both are for very different things, I think. Okay. How is this game? It's really cool. Like the biggest, like the strongest thing in this book, like the selling point, I would say, is that you can create any alien race you want. You have pages and pages of just like alien traits that you can pick. You have a limit. If you go beyond that limit, you can still grab more, but then you'll get penalties and certain ability scores. So basically, you can, I don't know, if you want to have like a reptile centaur with wings, you can. If you want to do like a space zombie, you can. You can even play an undead. You can do anything you want. Well, I mean, within the amount of traits, racial traits you can get. So it's really cool. You don't have a list of, well, they do give you some example aliens, and they do tell you how humans are stabbed, but you can. It doesn't come with a list of aliens to play, you just create your own, which is really cool. Then the classes in this, you have the killer, it's the fighter. You have the expert, rogue thief. Then you have the scion, who's replacing the spellcasters. Although the description is kind of vague, like they imply it could also be magic. Like a lot of it is implied, you don't have like specific setting in this game, which is good. They just imply one, and you can do your own thing if you want. And then you have the scholar. The scholar is kind of like, I guess if you want to do like the Doctor from Doctor Who, just this kind of like mad scientist guy who has skills that no one else has. He can do really weird stuff with his skills. So that's a scholar. It's a really cool class. Like I said, if you want to play the Doctor, you would grab a scholar in this game. If you want to do like a Jedi, you could grab the Scion. Han Solo, Malcolm Reynolds, the expert, the fighter, whatever, like this combat guy. Lobo from DC Comics. There you go. um, so yeah, now what I really like is you can really diversify with the racial traits, and then the skills. You have different skills you can take, unlike in Lamentations where you know, they're different games. But I'm gonna stop the comparisons very soon. I just have to point out a few more things. One thing I don't like though is that it takes it takes two things from Lamentations. One is that armor class doesn't start at 10, it starts at 12. I don't really care about it. Okay, fine. And then the thing that bothers me a little bit because it works for Lamentations, where it's this old school D&D type game where everyone has a specific role and it's not about the stats, and it's not really about what you can get for your characters, what you do with the character. But for this, where it's about customizing your character, what alien race you want, what class, what skills, all that stuff. It really feels weird. They kept the whole deal from Lamentations where only the fighter, killer, advances in his combat score. I don't really like that for this game. It's fine for Lamentations, but for this it doesn't feel right. Especially if they mention Star Wars as an influence, where you have the Jedi who are kind of like, you know, they're really good with their lightsabers. How do you justify that they never advance in their combat score in this? Even though this isn't a Star Wars game, I mean, you get my point. In the whole like trashy sci-fi, sleazy, like out there, kind of like sci fantasy stuff, you always see like kind of like high-tech mage soldiers, and they have like kind of like swords and a blaster in the other hand and using mental powers. So it kind of feels weird that they kept that from Lamentations. It feels like that's one thing they should have left behind. Now there's an easy fix, and that's the expert, who's the rogue type, has access to combat skills as well as the killer, of course. And one of the combat skills is that if you put a point in it, you get a +1 for one weapon. So basically you get a bonus for specific weapons. It's not like an overall bonus, just like for this weapon, like if you want to be good with your blaster, with your chainsaw sword, whatever. So and that's kind of cool. Like I like it as a middle ground for like between the difference between a fighter who can use any weapon and other people who train with weapons get better, but they don't know, like they train with specific weapons. They wouldn't know how to use all of them. That works. That's a good middle ground. I actually even like it because they mentioned Fireflies and influence in there too, and it's kind of like in Firefly at some point, like Malcolm Reynolds, the main character, who's good with a gun. He knows how to fight with his fists and stuff like that, and he's having trouble in a sword fight because he never had a sword fight before, and so you could kind of like, it's kind of how it works here. You know, like if someone put points in for how to use his gun and stuff like that, then he'd be good with the gun, but he wouldn't know how to sword fight any better than the average person. So what I would do, little like change I would personally do to how this works, is that every single class would have access to that specific combat skill. Not all of the combat skill category, not all of the combat skills out there that make you do different stuff in combat, but just for that specific one. Weapon training, I believe it's called. So if someone wants to do like, I'm not going to use it for Star Wars, but to make a general example, if someone wants to do a Jedi, he just has to take the Scion class, and then he could put weapon training for the lightsaber to get better with the lightsaber. Every few levels, a +1. So, okay, that works. But officially, only the killer and expert get better with the weapons. I don't like that much, but it's an easy fix. And you can even, like, it would even explain why Jedi always use the lightsaber and you very rarely see them using blasters, because the lightsaber would be a weapon they would have the better bonus with. So there you go, another justification. But you'd have to tweak it a little bit to make it happen. Now another little nitpick before I move on to the good stuff again is how the saving throws work. One thing I like about it, it's kind of like in Castles and... Actually, it's the same thing as Castles and Crusades for me, where I like the fact that every saving throw is derived from an ability score. So there's no such thing as dump stat. However, the saving throws are too harsh. Let's say you grab the strongest guy you can before any modifiers from racial traits or cybernetics, because yeah, there's cybernetics rule in this rules. let's say you have 18 in strength. So your saving throw and power should be really good, right? Well, what you do is you grab the ability score and you half it, you divide it by 2, and then the remaining number rounded up is your saving throw. So someone with a strength of 18 would have a saving throw of 9. Now, the saving throw, the way it works, you have to grab the number and under. So on a d20, you have to have 9 or under for the saving throw to work, to succeed. That means that the strongest guy possible before modifiers from race or cybernetics would have a less than 50% chance of succeeding. That rubs me the wrong way. Now, I haven't read every single word in this book yet. Maybe somewhere it's addressed. An easy fix would be to give bonuses for stuff that should be easier to accomplish. So if someone's trying to kick down a rotten door, they get like a +5 or more. So their saving throw of 9 becomes a saving throw of 14. You know, stuff like that. But maybe it's even addressed somewhere in the book and I just missed it, because at some point you're reading D&D clones and you don't know exactly which part you read or not anymore, because some stuff is similar, the other stuff is different. So it's easy to think you read something, but it's actually something you read in one of the other D&D clones. So it could be a mistake on my part, but I checked this through and there doesn't seem to be like anything about modifying the saving throws, but I could be wrong. Now, and again, if the saving throws would just advance with levels, that would be fine, but they don't. They remain as they are no matter what your level is, unless you put skill points in them. Now, I like that you can use skill points to get better saving throws. What I don't like though is that a class like the Killer, who gets only 1 point per level, the Killer wants to concentrate on fighting. But now, if he has to put points to have decent saving throws, that's a bummer. Then he's not very good as a fighter anymore after a while, as a combatant, because he has to waste points that he could have put in combat skills, he has to put in instead of saving throws. And before it really changes something, you have to put a few points, and you can just put 1. So I guess there's a few ways to fix this. For example, I could, again, this, and the author did say that he does want people to mess with it a little bit, so I don't feel guilty pointing out why it doesn't work for me, because I realize like other people might like it. A lot of people like harsh saving throws. My take on it is that I like when saving throws are harsh for a good reason, but by default they should be like representative of how the character should be. Like if the character has a strength of 18, a saving throw related to strength, he should have very good chances on his side. That's my opinion. So I would give bonuses regarding circumstances. But yeah, anyway, what I was gonna say, like a way to fix it is either add bonuses per level as other D&D clones do, which is really easy to do, or say that anyone who puts a skill point to better their saving throw, it gets them more than just a +1. It could give them more. That would be like ways to fix it for me. But again, that's my opinion. That's a nitpick. The game overall is really good. A really cool thing about science, by the way, is that they have what they call a witch mark. You throw a d100 and it gives you like this kind of like weird thing about your psion. So it could be something like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna just grab 2 at random. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. It's always random. Let's see. Fanged. You're fanged. Your mouth filled with particularly sharp and vicious teeth. You can bias a close combat attack for d4 damage. If your species can already bite, raise the die type by the damage by 1. That's pretty cool. Or Mush Tool. You are infested with a psychic fungal symbiote which covers you in faintly glowing growths and tendrils. -1 to comeliness. Okay, that sucks. So you see, that's funny, and they even say here, roll a d100 to see how your character is marked. If it doesn't apply due to the nature of your species, or a game master allows you a reroll because he doesn't like seeing you cry, you can always try again. So this is a fun book to read, by the way. And yeah, it's cool. It's little details. It's really fun. And oh, by the way, speaking of cool details and ideas, every single page of this book at the bottom has an idea for your campaign. That's awesome. I'm gonna read a few at random. The planet is suddenly placed on lockdown as virulent space rabies runs wild. That's cool. The invaders are in the employ of the pirate queen who has been bribed by... dot dot dot. And so else. Two armed students have absconded with the university time machine. Stop them. So yeah, it's just... As I was saying, this doesn't have a strict setting. It's just an implied setting. And that's for the best, because I can imagine people do their own settings for this. They'll create their own worlds, their own aliens, and it's all easy to do. And spaceships, like space battles are really easy. Spaceships are treated like monsters stat-wise, and like who's inside affects the statistics. And kind of like in Star Siege Event Horizon, the Troll War Games RPG, everyone in the ship can do something. No one's just like crossing their fingers and like, just waiting. Everyone can do something to help. And they even use an example from Empire Strikes Back, where C-3PO does a logic roll, a saving throw, and he mentions to Han Solo the odds of navigating an asteroid field and surviving. And according to this game, that actually helped Han Solo. It gave him a +1 to his paladin skills because it kind of made him more wary of the situation. Like made him realize, yeah, this is very dangerous what I'm doing, even more than before. And then when Leia says, "You don't have to do this to impress me," it's a charm roll, and it actually motivates Han to impress her even more because it totally means he has to impress her now. So, so between the two of them, they gave him a +2. So I think that's a cool way of looking at it. That's a cool way for people to be able to participate, even if they're not a pilot or if they're not shooting at stuff. And they use scale, which was something that I also saw, if I remember correctly, in the Western Games D6 Star Wars RPG, where instead of like having like a lot of dice, hit dice, and crazy stats for ships that are huge, they just use scale. And scale like either multiplies or divides your damage depending on what you're fighting. So if you're fighting something bigger, you're dividing your hit dice, like your damage. And if you're fighting something smaller, you're multiplying. So you don't have to go with a crazy amount of dice because the ship is attacking. Unless you want to. In that case, just use the multiplier divider for your amount of dice, I guess. What else? Well, like I'm saying, like this has plenty of ideas. Maybe a little nitpick on the best part of the book. Ironically, like the best part is the whole racial traits, but some of them are a little bit unspecified, and this is a nitpick in the sense that I can totally roll with it. In a way, thinking about it makes you think about your setting that you're going to use even more. So I don't have a problem with it, because when I use this game I want to make my own setting, so that's fine. But for other people maybe it'll be more of a problem, so I'm going to call this one a nitpick, because I personally don't mind, but others might want more answers. So anyway, here's my example. In the dead category, because yeah, you can play like a non-dead. So a non-dead like in a ship, like a space zombie. It's really cool. But one of the racial traits is immaterial. You cannot directly interact with much in the physical world, but are immune to physical attacks. That's all they give you. They don't give you any, they don't really specify what that means. I have some ideas myself now. Like I can imagine ghost objects that only they could interact with, and not living people, or maybe magical stuff they can interact with it, or maybe equipment made specifically so immaterial beings can also affect them. There's lots of crazy ideas in like that I can come up with, or maybe like you can take an idea from the Ghostbusters and have like weapons designed to hurt immaterial beings. But yeah, sometimes you will come across some stuff where you have to decide by yourself, which I really don't mind, but maybe others will feel like it should have been like maybe a little bit more worked out. I'm gonna leave that as a gray area. Oh yeah, at the end there's this chart random table. A friend of mine who's like, I'll run a game for her and her boyfriend sometime soon, and she's gonna use it. So she doesn't know what she'll look like, what her racial traits will be, what kind of alien she'll be. She's just gonna roll it all random, because there are like random tables for the racial traits, for the appearance. So that's funny. That's cool. Now this is a nitpick that logically I realize it's just a little nitpick. For me it's huge though. I'm really like, this is like, for me it's a really big problem. emotionally, but I know that it's not a big deal. Is that, okay, look, in every page you have like this space princess here around the page and everything. So you're thinking, okay, well, let's go see the character sheet. I guess she'll be in there, or there'll be like a cool design for the character sheet, and yeah, this is a character sheet. It's a really, really boring character sheet, and for a game that's so visual and fun and with plenty of ideas, and have like, look at this funny guy like trapped in the trap section. Like, you have plenty of visuals in this game that are really cool and off the wall ideas, and then you end up with this boring character sheet. I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't change the game itself, but when you think of like when you're playing Vampire, or when you're playing Shadowrun, or there's plenty of games that have this visual to the character sheet that's really, you're just looking at the character sheet and you're in the mood for a game, you know what I mean? Even Call of Cthulhu has like little investigators like at the top of the page, you need little tentacles in the like character sheet, and it kind of puts you in the mood for it. And okay, so if I had to fix it, I would have put the Space Princess, as with the other pages, I would have put her here, so you can have something visual. Maybe a little place for character design, because there's no specific like list of aliens. You create your own and what they look like. So it would be good to have kind of a visual reminder of what your character looks like. For people who want to draw, they can draw. But I guess it could be said that you can put that aside from the character sheet. Okay, fine. But another thing too is this game is, as a D&D clone, it suffers from the advantages and flaws that all D&D clones have, which is we're familiar with the game, we don't need to study it for hours to be able to play it, but it does have little differences that can make it confusing sometimes. For example, in this game you have two types of defenses for melee combat and ranged combat. And for the melee armor class, it's not with dexterity. You take the modifier from Constitution, and Wisdom adds to your ranged attack damage. So it's something like that when you think of Lamentations, where under every ability score, you had kind of like it told you what this does, or in 3.5 games where in the saving throws. Well, okay, no, not for saving throws, because they're next to the ability score they're derived from, but there's lots of examples where like they could have given a little bit more information in the character sheet itself, and that's just my personal opinion. It's a nitpick. Especially, the biggest crime for me is the visual, because this is a boring character sheet. Stuck to a really cool off-the-wall visual original game, and it shouldn't be like that. So out there, if any of you out there know how to do character sheets and you have like, you can make a really cool one, let me know. Contact me via my blog at the Tumblr one. You will have the link in the bottom, and just contact me and let me know, and I'll link it. I'll let people know about it, because this is a cool game, and I think it needs a character sheet just as cool as the game itself. This little nitpick, which ended up being a whole rant. So yeah, I really recommend this game. It's not perfect, but it does exactly what it needs to be perfectly. And as a D&D clone, you can easily modify it to your liking. You can grab the old saving throws again, whatever. You can change it around a little bit. Hell, you can even like use dungeons you already have for D&D games and just say the characters go to this desolated planet or primitive planet, whatever, and run a dungeon that's from D&D, or grab monsters you like from D&D, whatever. You could do elves in space. Just what would elves have? You go through racial traits, pick a few, and there you go. It's it's D&D in space, but trashy and sleazy. So yeah, highly recommended. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.